I'm on the outside internet. You're in the DMZ, you're 192 network. I could send a packet to the SIP server and say, send a response to 192.168.1.2. If there's certain circumstances, it may be routable, it may be unroutable, it may be on that box, maybe be the actual IP address of that box. There's certain circumstances. And if you could poll the amount of time it takes to send a response, and by response, it's kind of obscure. So I'm trying to paraphrase this in 3 minutes. Actually. Okay. So, it's kind of like FTP bounce, if anyone's familiar with it from yesteryear. So if I could somehow time the amount of time it takes to try to initiate communication with an arbitrary IP address, that minuscule microsecond, I could enumerate your internal network. So say, for example, I'm on the public internet and you have a non-routable address space. I could say, try to communicate with 192.168.1.x. See how long that takes. Or how about you communicate with 10.x.x.x, how long does that take? And just go through all the motions to try to see what namespaces they're using, which also includes DNS. Because if you could arbitrarily issue DNS queries through a PBX, you could time how long that takes as well. So say, for example, A.acmeco takes a second. B.acmeco takes half a second. Well, B.acmeco is probably valid while A is not. So even just exposing SIP publicly is a risk to your internal network. So as far as, if I had more time, I could talk about this one topic for several hours, and I don't want to bore you guys to death. But anything done wrong setting up VoIP could be disastrous, whether it's your naming conventions with your extensions and your usernames, password policies, the network design, not updating your build. If there's a vulnerability, you have to update your systems. There's guidelines that are standard best practices in all spaces, not just VoIP, just all spaces, that if you don't follow, it's gonna, I'm gonna say this with a heavy foot. If you don't do it right, you may be participating in a terrorist attack. Yes, because there's this thing as well. I've been using the term VoIP darknet. So say I brute force an extension on a system, and I get a username and password. I know it works. Log in, 1 second phone call. There's no loss financially. You may not discover it. I'll move to the next system. Say I have 10,000 different extensions that I could light up at a single moment. 4 channels max per account. That's 40,000 phone calls at one time, all by law connected to 911. I mean, if we're not going to solve it in this room, we might as well just give up. That's my take on it. Got to do it right the first time. But, any questions? I saved that one.